morning. My name is Anila M. Makaya and this is my oral report in PED 1, the Children and Adolescent Learner and Learning, Week 46, Concept Digest Lessons. So in Week 4, Unit 2, Developmental Theories and Other Relevant Theories with the topic Sigmund Freud's Psychosexual Theory. These are called the psychosexual stage because each stage represents the fixation of libido, roughly translate as sexual drives and instincts, on a different areas of the body. As a person grows physically, certain areas of their body become important as source of potential fun or erogenous zones, pleasure, or both. Freud believes that life was built around tension and pleasure. Freud also believes that all tension was due to the build-up of libido, sexual energy, and that all pleasure come from its discharge. It's describing human personality development as psychosexual. Freud meant to convey that what develops is the way in which sexual energy accumulates and is discharged as we matured biologically. This Freud used the term sexual in a very general way to mean all pleasurable actions and thoughts. Freud stressed that the first 5 years of life are crucial to the formation of adult personality. So there are 3 components and personality adjustment. First is the id, which exists from birth and it is most prominent in the newborn baby. It is subconscious part. It is related to the individual's most basic needs and wants, such as desire for food. Second is the ego. It is the rational conscious part. It begins to emerge later in infancy and help the child relate to the realities of the environment and the constraint imposed by others, without losing a healthy concept of self. For example, a young child cannot always be fed exactly when hunger strikes, but most older toddlers who are well cared for will learn to wait a reasonable time for food, without losing trust that their hunger will be satisfied. Third is the superego. Can be thought of as something like the conscience. Ideally, it acts as a guide to behavior. It is associated with morality. It is the ego job to mediate between the demands of the id, which can be ruthless if allowed free cells, and those of the superego, which can be overly harsh and restraining. A typically adolescent struggle between id and superego might, for example, revolve around the issue of sex, while the basic desire for sex would come from the id, and the superego might produce feelings of guilt. It will be the ego job to consider both sides and resolve the dilemma. The individual will progress, ideally through the stage of development, will have a healthy ego that helps him or her interact well with others and with the environment. There are 5 psychosexual stages of development. First is the oral stage, 0 to 1 years old. In the first stage of personality development, the libido is centered in a baby's mouth. It gets much satisfaction from putting all sorts of things in its mouth to satisfy the libido, and that's its id demand, which at this stage is live or oral, are mouth-orientated, such as sucking, biting, and breastfeeding. Freud said oral stimulation could lead to later life. We see oral personality all around us, such as smokers, nail biters, finger chewers, and thumb suckers. Oral personalities engage in such oral behavior, particularly when under stress. So second is the anal stage, from 1 to 3 years old. The libido now becomes focused on the anus, and the child derives great pleasure from defecating. The child is now fully aware that they are a person in their own right and that their wishes can bring them into conflict with the demands of the outside world. So Freud believes that this type of conflict tends to come to an head in potty training, in which adults impose restriction on when and where the child can be defecated. The nature of this first conflict with authority can be determined the child's future relationship with all forms of authority. So third is the phallic stage, from 3 to 6 years old. Sensitivity now becomes concentrated in the genitals, and masturbation in both sexes became a new source of pleasure. The child becomes aware of anatomic sex differences, which sets in emotion the conflict between erotic attraction, resentment, rivalry, jealousy, and fear with fluid called the Oedipus complex in boys and the Electra complex in girls. So fourth is the latency stage, from 5 to 6 to puberty. So no further psychosexual development takes place during this stage. The libido is dormant, fluid thought that most sexual impulses are repressed during that latent stage. The sexual energy can be sublimated towards schoolworks, hobbies, and friendship. So much of the child energy is channeled into developing new skills and acquiring new knowledge, and play becomes largely confined to other children of the same gender. So the last stage is the genital stage, or the puberty to adult. This is the last stage of fluid psychosexual theory of personality development and begins in puberty. It is the time of adolescent sexual experimentation, the successful resolution of which is settling down in a loving one-to-one relationship with another person in our 20s, sexual self-pleasure like during the phallic stage. So in week 5, you need to develop mental theories and other relevant theories with the topic Piaget stage of cognitive development. So Jean Piaget, cognitive theories of development, is truly classic in the field of education psychology. This theory fueled other researchers and theories of development and learning. It's focused on how individuals construct knowledge. For 60 years, Jean Piaget conducted research on cognitive development. His research method involved observing a small number of individuals as they responded to cognitive tasks that he designed. These tasks are later known as Piagetian tasks. So there are basic cognitive concepts. First is the schema. Piaget used the term schema to refer to the cognitive structure by which individuals intellectually adapt to and organize their environment. It is an individual's way to understand or create meaning about a thing or experience. It is like the mind has a filing cabinet and each drawer has folder that contains file of things he has had an experience with. Second is accommodation. This is the process of creating a new schema. And fourth is the equilibration. So Piaget believed that people have the natural needs to understand how the world works and to find order, structure, and predictability in their life. Equilibration is achieving proper balance between assimilation and accommodation. When our experiences do not match our schema, our cognitive structure, we experience cognitive disequilibrium. This means there are a discrepancy between what is perceived and what is understood. We then exert effort through assimilation and accommodation and establishing equilibrium once more. There are also Piaget stage of cognitive development. So in stage 1, there is sensory motor stage. The first stage corresponds from birth to infancy. This is the stage when a child who is initially reflective in grasping, sucking,